Welcome back to iZotope Nectar Explained. We're still looking under the hood. We're going to the options menu and we're going to the third tab, which is the metering. Now, metering is really important when making music. You want to make sure you're not distorting, you make sure you get enough level in, enough level out, and this is where you can enable and disable meters and do all sorts of tweaks to make sure that everything is coming out as you would like to see it. So the first one, of course, is the main meters. And if you play this track, we can turn these on and off.
At every turn is so quiet. No one sees us quite.
And there you can see it happening there. The second one is show peak hold. Those are the little yellow things as they're going along. And we can turn those on and off again. I found peak hold really useful.
At every turn is so quiet. No one sees us quite.
Now, main view histogram may confuse some people. If you've been going under the hood, you wonder what is that and where does it live? Because you're clicking this and you're thinking, oh, it's not here. Where is it? Well, I'm going to show you that in a second. But the first one I want to show you before I go out of this and show you that is that show input level advisory. And you can see that here. It gives you a kind of advice on where your input levels should be reading from. Just that area there. So that's well worth making sure that you check out. And of course, I think I've said this before, if you press the Alt and the Command key or the Alt and Control key, this will always revert things back to their normal position within Nectar at any point. Also, of course, if you right mouse click, you can go to your meter options from here instead. So we can right mouse click and go straight into them from there. And that happens a lot around Nectar. So if you find right mouse clicking, just click around. In certain circumstances, you've got things like copy, paste, and edit. Or in other ones, you can go into your spectrum options from here. That's quite cool to get to things quite quickly instead of hitting the options button all the time, as I've been showing you so far. So let's go back to meters. And the main view histogram is showing you the difference in amplitude between the input and the output. And it happens here, in this window here, not there. And it can be sometimes confusing.
At every turn is so quiet.
So you can see there's the input and there's the output. So right now, there's actually more coming in than going out because we were doing some compressing and we're doing some limiting and we've got some gain changing.
Turn is so quiet.
We can change that.
No one sees us quite yet. It's an eternity.
Again, if we turn that back on and off, you'll see now it's gone.
At every turn is so...
I tend to keep that on myself. It's always useful. Then we've got the type of measurement in terms of input and output metering. You've got a hybrid here, which is RMS and peak combined, or you've got RMS, and we can see that in action. And we'll just get her singing again, and then we'll switch between them.
At every turn is so
There's RMS.
Quiet. No one sees
There's peak.
us quite yet.
And then there's the hybrid.
It's an eternity of slow-mo. I think we'll need to use elbows, but I believe in the Legion.
I personally find the hybrid the most useful one. And it may be that you find one of the others useful. It's a case of just experimenting and seeing which one suits you best and which one is giving you the results that actually are most accurate for your workflow. We've got the scale here on the meters. You can see that at the moment it's spaced in a kind of representation of how the audio will sound as it's coming through at the different decibel ratings. But you can actually have that if you want in a linear fashion there between 30 and 0. And that's all evenly spaced. I prefer it to be non-linear. That feels much more natural to me, but it's entirely up to you. That's a taste thing. The small thing I want to show you while I'm over here on the meters is a couple of things. We've got, of course, we've got the stereo pairing. You can actually separate those and actually adjust those independently. Although personally, I wouldn't do that much in a stereo situation. We can then also, of course, change the scale here with these plus and minus buttons, depending on how big the scale needs to be. So that's worth showing you while we're in this setting here. And those are some more settings we can make.
Turn is so quiet. No one sees us quite yet.
That's much broader and much more accurate in some ways. And then at the top here we have a readout in decibels of what's actually occurring in terms of peaking. And that's really can be helpful too.
At every turn is so quiet. No one sees us quite yet.
At any point you could reset those and then by clicking on them there. So then we have the peak hold time. We've talked about that before. And the integration time, whether you want them to work like VUs or PPMs, which is quite cool. If you're working in video, a lot of people like to prefer PPM when they're working in the video world. And so we can have a PPM reading instead if you're going to be using this in video.
At every turn is so quiet.
Then we have the integration time. We can use VU or PPM style metering. And some people prefer that, so it's nice to have all those options there. And again, it's worth choosing the one that suits your workflow. And then you've got a readout here, whether it's maximum peak or a current readout. And again, here.
At every turn it's so quiet. No one sees us quite.
We've got a maximum peak,
yet.
and it's going to give us our max peak level there. And if we just again click that, it resets it back to 0 at the start. That's quite useful as well. So lots of metering options that are very useful. You may also have seen it. It's been in every menu since we launched this part of the video. There it tells me what I'm using here, that I'm on an OS X in 32-bit and it's an Intel machine and I'm running an RTAS processor and what version of the plugin I'm using. That's quite useful. You need that for support help later on. Then you've got some more stuff here. Gain reduction metering is set here and that turns that on and off if you don't want to see the gain reduction metering. The gain reduction metering means that when you use a compressor, it shows you the amount of reduction that's happening in the compressor. So if we come over to the compressor stage, for example, and we'll go over here.
At every turn is so quiet.
The gain reduction
No one sees us quite yet. It's an eternity of slow mo.
Is there. You can see it. That's how much compression is applying in a graphical representation. Very useful. I wouldn't ever switch that off personally. And again, you've got the curve level meter in the compressor and gate, and that's over in here. Let that bypass for a second.
At every turn is so quiet.
And again, show you
No one
that.
sees us quite yet. It's an eternity of slow mo. I think we'll need to use
It's there.
elbows, but I believe in the Legion. The materials are much better.
And that's adjustable, and we can see that metering there. Turn that on and off.
The foundation is settled in. We're in this together.
And again, in the limiter, we can enable the histogram when it's applying any limiting. It's going here into the limiter, and here it is on the right-hand side this time. And we'll come and turn it off and on.
At every turn is so quiet.
That's showing us the difference between the input and the output amplitude.
It's an eternity of slow mo.
I found all of this metering helpful, so rarely would I switch any of it off. Breath control metering can be there as well, saturation metering and de-esser metering as well. I personally wouldn't turn any of it off, but if you're finding it that it's not helpful, then you might want to turn it off. But it's nice they've given us that option, but I really am not thinking of turning that off anytime soon. So let's come out of here and back out to our options menu. And if you ever get stuck and you think, I actually think I've twiddled too much and I've broken a few things, just hit the reset button and it goes back to how it was from factory. So there we are, all the options under the hood of iZotope Nectar. Thanks for watching.